Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We are back with another live episode of Strong Style here on the Outlaw Nation. I am the Outlaw Joe Rogan. I'm excited to be back today. We're going to keep this show to under an hour because at 5 p.m. PT, the Outlaws got to put on the hat and jump onto the Schmodown Free Agency Special. 5 p.m. PT over there on the SCN Network. You will definitely see me on that within the first hour of the show. And then maybe you might see me popping up on another show later on tonight. But certainly, I'm excited to be back with my brother and my partner here on Strong Style. Aaron Turner, how are you, brother?
Hey, I'm doing well. Quick thank you to everybody last week that donated for my birthday. I will show you what I got with my birthday money like a child. First of all, I got this Macho Man Randy Savage for Wrestlemania 3, brother. Dig it.
Dig it.
And exactly. And then I got his little buddy in crime here, Andre the Giant, in the ring card as well. So I got both of those at my local Target. So thank you guys very much for helping me add to my collection. I'm excited, man. A lot of stuff to talk about. Just got done listening to a 2.5 hour interview with the Undertaker.
Yeah,
so we talked about a lot of stuff. So we're gonna go over the bullet points of that.
Yeah,
got some other stuff going on.
Definitely, we're covering a lot of stuff today. We're going to talk about, if you saw the title of the show, we're going to talk about WWE's plans for WrestleMania this year. Another 2-night event. Just a little tease about that. We're going to talk about that and how many fans are going to be allowed and when that's going down and what we speculate is going to happen around a possible Hall of Fame ceremony that's going to be done maybe virtually or whatever. Then we're going to talk about Taya Valkyrie wrapping up her career there at TNA Impact for now. And wondering where she might be going. And, of course, Sting officially announced Sting will be getting into the ring or out of the ring, actually, for a street fight match. We'll talk about that, the reaction amongst the fans and the pro wrestling world to the idea that Sting will be risking his physical health yet again in a wrestling match. And whether it'll be filmed or not, or if it'll be live, we shall see. Covering all of it, and we'll talk about the Undertaker's comments about the soft wrestlers that are hanging around nowadays in the WWE and other places. So all of it to get into. And, of course, ladies and gentlemen, the Streamlabs and Super Chats are available. You know, we love to get your support for the show. We love to answer your questions. We'd love to talk about anything pro wrestling. So please send in your comments, send in your chat, your questions, send in your thoughts about anything. Ask us about anything, and we're happy to talk about it within the next hour. All right, let's get into things. Aaron, what's our first thing?
So right off the bat, we're talking about one of my favorite female wrestlers out there, and that is Miss Taya Valkyrie. She finished up with Impact this week, and she is now a free agent, guys. And what is significant about that is that not only is she one of the most talented women out there, she was the longest reigning TNA/Impact Knockouts champion in their history, held the belt for over a year. She is the current AAA Reina de Reinas champion. She's held that 3 times.
You said
of course,
really well.
Know her from Lucha Underground. Is where I first got my eyes on her. She, of course, is a Canadian. She's was trained by Conan and the late Perro Aguayo Jr. But the question becomes, and her nickname is La Güera Loca. So there you go.
Loca.
There you go. And the question becomes, where does she go from here? Does she go to AEW to kind of bolster that women's division? Or does she, make nice and join her husband, John Morrison, in the WWE where they could definitely use her?
Yeah.
What do you think, man? What would you do?
This is an interesting situation because let's be real about it, right? She has done so much for lack of a better description, in the lower rungs of the wrestling promotion world, right? Not at the WWE. She's done great work at TNA, at Impact, Lucha Underground. She has made a legacy doing so. She's 37 years old right now. Is this the move to go to the WWE? There's certainly rivalries for her to have there, Aaron, and there's certainly feeling like one side of the women's division isn't as exciting as the other side of the women's division. Would she be put into the unexciting side for now to kind of change that balance and make it exciting? Would it work? Does the WWE really like to have people who are already in a relationship under their contract, under the auspices. I don't know how they feel about that. Obviously, with Stephanie and Triple H, that's a separate situation. But this is like, I don't know that most of the times that they bring in wrestlers who are in relationships. Sometimes they get into relationships while they're there, like we saw with not with CM Punk, but with Seth Rollins and Becky. But this is a different situation. So would she want to come in? I don't know. I mean, AEW. Sorry, y'all. AEW seems to be the next logical step for her. It's just below the WWE. She's going to get a lot of attention. That women's division is great and could use her as well. So I think that's where she goes because I don't know if the WWE is that excited about bringing in older talent at this point that hasn't really made their bones in the mainstream world of professional wrestling. I could be wrong, but that's what I feel like the WWE would maybe hesitate on this right now.
I think you're hella wrong. And not only do I think you're super wrong, I think that she doesn't go to AEW, which I think would be a logical step. But I think the problem is like AEW and Impact have this working relationship right now.
Yeah.
And they wrote her off of Impact. So
they did.
Unless they're going to bring her through AEW like the next week, I don't see what you would do with her there. And I don't think she wants to be she was in the Impact Knockouts division, which right now, pretty good. Pretty good compared to AEW's division and stuff like that. So why would you want to go in to the AEW division and like have to build that up when she's been all around the world, Canada, Mexico, Japan. She's been to all these places and wrestled. Yeah. Why not? I think just skipping all of that, I think that she skips NXT. Like a lot of people are saying, oh, she's going to go to NXT. I think she skips that level and she goes all the way to the main roster. I think they can use her on Raw. I think they can use her on SmackDown. I think they could put her and John together. I think that would be a nice boost for John as well, as he and The Miz have been kind of doing their thing, and it's been okay. But The Miz has the Money in the Bank contract, and he's eventually going to be WWE champion or Universal champion or something, and that's going to leave John Morrison kind of out in the cold. And they do really good as a combined unit. Lucha Underground, they were really good. In Impact for a brief time when they were together, they were a good unit. They work well together. So I would like to see them together in the WWE. I mean, if it's bold, I'll make the statement right now. She's going to be in the Women's Royal Rumble.
Wow. Okay.
I think they're going to bring her in right away because I look at it this way. NXT's women's division is stacked, probably the best in the business. Impact is right there. She left that division. I think NXT is too crowded. I think they need her on the main roster, and they need her right away. Wow. And I could definitely see her being as talented as she is. God, 37 is old, man. That sucks. I just turned 35.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you. In wrestling terms, it is old.
Yeah, you're right. You're not wrong about that.
I mean, Mickie James is the rarity. Natty is the rarity, where these ladies get up in older age and the WWE wants to keep booking them in matches. That's a rarity, man. They tend to go for the younger talent, tend to bring in the talent, roll them through NXT, and then bring them into the WWE. But that's the only reason I bring that up. And not in any way am I being ageist, because I think that woman absolutely deserves to get a shot in the WWE and have the shot. But do you trust them? Listen, Aaron, let's look at this situation too. Look, she's Canadian, but she kind of adapts the luchador vibe and style. That's where she trained, kind of like Lita and other female wrestlers that have come through the luchador. Do you trust them to be able to book her correctly and promote her character correctly? They are almost always terrible with their luchador characters that they push through. Yeah, you've got Ray, but Ray is the anomaly. Ray is the exception to the overall thing. Lena, I remind you of the 3 luchadors that were doing those terrible matches last year. I mean, it's just, I don't trust them necessarily to handle her character correctly. And I wonder if she would put her hands in the WWE, put her character in the hands of the WWE.
Well, what's good about Taya is that she has that luchadora background, but she's a brawler. She has a more grounded style when she has to. She's not really a high flyer. She will take risks from time to time, but she's a ground and pound. She's very muscular, and she is very good at power moves. And it almost hindered her a little bit because everybody was so much smaller than her. Yeah. And then you move up to the WWE and you got people like Charlotte, you got Rhea Ripley, you got these bigger women.
Ooh, her and Rhea. That's a hell of a match.
That's what I'm saying. Like she matches up well with a lot of people in WWE, more so than I think she does in AEW. And I think that it will eventually come down to where do they want to go with John Morrison as well. Like I think that's part of it too, because John Morrison will struggle without the Miz. I said that earlier, but it's true. Like when the Miz cashes in the Money in the Bank, John Morrison's going to be left out in the cold, because I don't think they have any plans on making John Morrison the WWE champion or anything like that. But him and Taya could have a run as this sinister couple, and I think that's what they will do. Yeah. She could fight people like Mandy Rose. She could fight Charlotte. She could fight Asuka. She matches up well against pretty much everybody that they got, and I would love to see her do it.
Yeah, and the angle could play like all these pretty women here. I'm here to mess up their faces. I'm here to show you that this is real wrestling, that there are ladies who do it down in the ground, don't have to do high-flying somersaults or anything like that. Maybe there's an angle to play there as an evil entity coming in. That's certainly possible. And her and Morrison have worked together before in the past. Aaron, we've seen them work together before in the past, so that wouldn't be something that's new for them to explore. So it could be, like I said, I'm down with it. I just think AEW makes more sense at this point. I hear you about the cross promotional stuff, but if she's exclusively at AEW, then it would still work. Somebody in the chat said maybe she should take a little bit of time off and rest. Yeah, I don't know what her injury history is like, but that's certainly a possibility. Take a little bit of a break, let people miss her a little bit, and then boom, shock the world. But Royal Rumble, you're right, around the corner. That could be a way to introduce her, but nobody's going to know her. So are they going to pop at the same level?
Well, there's not going to be anybody there to pop, so it's not going to matter.
Oh, that's fair.
so just forget about that.
You're right about that.
Don't worry about if they're going to pop or not. It'll be fine. But, it happens a lot in the Women's Royal Rumble because there's not as many female superstars as there are men. Yeah. And, sometimes these NXT ladies come out and people don't know who they are. I mean, that's just the nature of the business. So whether they do or not, I don't think is a big deal because, like you said, like we've decided here, there's no fans. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter who's going to pop or not for her. But I think that if she plays her cards right and WWE plays it right enough, it's kind of, she's not like, I don't want to say she's a sure thing because there's no sure things when someone gets called up to the WWE. But if you play your cards right, you've got a top-rated women's heel for a good bit of time.
Yeah, that's fair. So you think at the end she will go to WWE?
That's my prediction. That's where I think she's going to go. So that's what makes the most sense to me.
All right, fair enough. We shall see. We don't see any Streamlabs. There's one super chat from J Dog. Thank you, Jay. He says flight to Tampa booked. See you both in April.
You probably see me there. I don't think you're going to see John Rocha there. You might see him in a couple years in LA. Yeah, but yeah, man. If it happens that the tickets are reasonable, which I saw some second market scalpers that were in the thousands of dollars for tickets. Really? I don't think that's going to happen because tickets haven't been released yet. So we don't know what the availability is going to be. We don't know what the parameters are going to be. Hopefully it's our next story. So might as well just get into it, J-Dog. We'll get into it a little bit more. WWE did come up with some stuff about WrestleMania 37, a whole lot of stuff actually, about fans being in attendance. That's definitely going to happen. Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Drew McIntyre all said that that's going to happen. The current rumor is around 25,000 fans in attendance. So that's a little bit above the 25% that Raymond James Stadium holds. It's more about 35%. Their litmus test for this is going to be the Super Bowl, which is also in Raymond James Stadium, which to my knowledge is only friends, family, and first responders that are invited to go to the Super Bowl so far. So I don't know about that. We'll have to wait and see. But a lot of different variables here. It's going to be broadcast over 2 nights from 7 to 10 p.m. So it'll be the second year in a row that WrestleMania will be 2 days. Yes. There's also the probability, I would say it's more probable than possible, of the virtual Hall of Fame ceremony with the NWO, the Bella Twins, the British Bulldog, Jushin Thunder Liger, JBL, and Batista, who were all set to be inducted last year, but of course, COVID. Right. So with all this going down, WrestleMania 2 nights, Stephanie McMahon and Triple H confirmed there will be people there. What do you think of this? And what do you think they should do to, help prevent any kind of mass super spread event?
I mean, you have to practice the social distancing, right? And I think, like you said, the NFL is going to be what they look at as, how can I say this, as the barometer, as you just said,
Sure.
of what to do. The thing is, A, it's wrestling fans, Aaron, and B, it's Florida. So how hard are they going to be able to really enforce this thing and make people adhere to it and not violate it and not get themselves, like, how stringent are they going to be? Are they really going to kick people out, Jay? Plus, is there enough time to clean that stadium fully in between two nights in between, one night to the next night, so that there's no issues? That's an expensive proposition as well, because you're going to clean the stadium twice, clearly, after one night and the second night. It's a lot of expense there to clean a stadium like that and for that amount of people. I know they're adamant that they're going to have fans there. They're adamant that they're going to have people there. And certainly we saw in a number of NFL stadiums, Dallas leading the way, that a lot of these NFL teams were willing to have, organizations rather, were willing to have fans in the stands to a certain amount, right? We've seen in the playoffs, some of the fans have been there in certain stadiums and some of the fans have not been there at all in certain stadiums. It all depends on the area that you're at. Florida, was one of the hardest hit states when it came to coronavirus and the COVID situation. So will they be adhering to that in a way that they can enforce it? That's my question. And I wonder if they can. But, Vince, clearly a Trump guy. Linda's clearly a Trump woman. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they're just adamant that they're going to have fans. They need to have fans, and they're going to put them in the stadiums. I just worry about people who are going to say, wearing the mask and blah, blah, blah. And remember, Joe Biden today and yesterday signed the executive order to make sure people wore masks inside certain areas, federal lands, or what have you. And he's thinking of expanding that out to the entire country. Wherever you're at in a stadium or what have you, you have to be wearing your mask. So that's another part of this situation too.
Yeah, and I just saw recently a report that said the Miami Heat, when they allow fans into games, again, Florida, they're going to have COVID sniffing dogs that will be there. I didn't know that was a thing. I did not know that was a thing. That's a real thing.
Wow.
COVID sniffing dogs at the American Airlines Arena, I think is where they play. Sure. So that could be going down to Miami. That could be something that's going on. The good thing, if there is a good thing about this, the good thing is we're in January. We're in mid-January. We've got about 2.5 months to kind of figure this out.
Right.
And like we said, the Super Bowl is going to be that litmus test. So if the Super Bowl can go off without a hitch, without being a massive super spreader event, I think we can do that with WrestleMania. I saw Chris Taylor in the chat say, "Wrestle fans, we ain't dummies." So
no, I didn't say you all.
I know what you. And
I'm a wrestle fan too, but there are some people who won't. Yeah,
I've seen more people in my wrestling group say that they would not go than they will, which really surprised me, to be honest with you. The way that wrestling fans are, hey, we've been without our wrestling long enough, with the exception of the few people that get to go to Jacksonville and watch AEW, or get to go to Full Sail, or not Full Sail, but the Capitol Wrestling Center and watch NXT. We haven't had live wrestling in almost a year, and I know it's killing a lot of us. That was probably a poor choice of words, but it's hurting a lot of us in our entertainment. So I get it. I understand it. And I'm the first person that says, hey, if it's available, I want to go. I want to go to WrestleMania. But I also work at a job where I know by the time WrestleMania rolls around, I'm going to be vaccinated. So that's something different. And that's a different risk that I have, or a different precaution that I have taken, that will be done for me. And I don't know if that's something that the WWE is considered as well. Maybe you have to bring your vaccination record, that you have been vaccinated before you can buy a ticket. Maybe that's something that's going down. And I know a lot of people aren't going to have access to that. So there's so many variables that have yet to be sorted out, that for right now, I think we should just err on the side of caution that it's going to happen. And we'll just have to play it by ear and adjust as we go. Maybe they don't end up having 25,000. Maybe they end up having 15, 10, 5, something. It doesn't have to be 25,000. It doesn't have to be 30,000. We've got time to figure this out.
Yeah, true. I mean, not much time though, right? It's right around the corner.
Not much time, but we have enough time to build a plan. They've had a year to build some sort of plan within the infrastructure of Tampa Bay to figure this out. So
we haven't heard many reports of people who've gone to these football stadiums for these games over the last few weeks and the numbers have increased because they went to the stadium. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas super spreader events, we've seen that at rallies, political rallies, where it's been able to be pinpointed how many of these people were infected at these political rallies, some of them dying as a result of these infections. And then you got that what happened at Sturgis, right? That was so many cases were traced back to that event there in Sturgis. So you wonder if there will be any kind of information that they can use or as a basis or a foundation to make this decision. Because if we don't start hearing any numbers from many of these playoff games, then I think the WWE feels like they might have a green light to do this. And look, what I've seen in the NFL when they've done the overhead shots, Aaron, it is very clear that there is separation.
Mm-hmm.
So what you hope is happening is the people who come to these events, if they come to WrestleMania, will adhere to that and will, have some kind of respect and care for their fellow fans and will respect the social distancing, wear the masks, and not get involved with possibly violating any of that in this. And you said, I've seen a lot of my friends surprisingly say they don't want to go versus going because of the situation. Well, 24 million people getting this in, 400,000 people dying. It kind of wakes you the fuck up a little bit. And so hopefully that stays as the norm until everyone can get vaccinated. And I don't want to wander too far out of the realm of strong style, but this morning it was reported that at the rate they're going now, and this is before Joe Biden's had a chance to put his administration and task force and everybody in motion to clean up the plans of the rollout, but the way they've scheduled the rollout at this point through the Trump administration, former administration with Trump, we're not going to get only 75% of people will be vaccinated by 2022. Only 75% of our entire country, and that's a shame, because we have all these vaccines. We got to be ramping it up at higher levels, and maybe, hopefully, Joe Biden and his administration sees that, President Joe Biden, and they make those changes, and it becomes a number that is higher than 75% by the beginning of next year. We shall see.
And something else, just a quick note about WWE. I mean, they want to be the first real big event with a lot of fans that they could do it safely. That's something that they want to do. After 9/11, what was the first mass gathering event? SmackDown.
Yeah, true.
It wasn't the Super Bowl. It was the NFL was that weekend, but it was SmackDown. Yeah. That was the big event. So if they can have their biggest event, okay, well, after post-COVID or during the COVID era, the biggest event we can have other than the Super Bowl is WrestleMania. You're damn right they're going to try to have it. So. Yeah,
true. But is it worth sacrificing the lives of your fans?
No, it is not. Absolutely not.
I'm just saying. Yeah, exactly. Well, before we move, and we'll find out what happens for sure when they finally announce how many tickets are going to be available and how they're going to allot those tickets for sure coming up. And before we move on to the next subject, please remember to hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. We got over 40 of you watching us live right now. Thank you very much for joining us. Hit that like button. If you're watching us later, remember to leave a comment. It's always important to have likes and comments here on these videos because they elevate the visibility of the videos, and especially for the Strong Style Show. Don't forget the Streamlabs Super Chats are open. Streamlab address right above Aaron's head and also in the banner down below. And I also pinned it to the chat. So please send in your support for the show and everything we're doing here, and your Super Chats as well. All right, let's get into it. What's next there, Aaron?
Next is Sting. Sting is booked for his first AEW match. It will be at the Revolution pay-per-view. He will team up with his new protege, Darby Allin, to take on the Machine, Brian Cage, and Ricky Starks in a street fight.
Okay.
Well, this one floored me because it's Sting's first match since 2015 with Seth Rollins. There is no word yet if this will be a cinematic match, if this will be some sort of, straight on, we're going to use weapons, we're going to beat the hell out of each other match. So what do you think about the Stinger now that we have an official return to the ring for Sting? That rhymed. What do you think of it?
I'll be honest with you, I'm a little afraid. Why wouldn't I be? The last I saw Sting in a ring, he looked like Patrick Mahomes after he got tackled in the game against the Browns.
That was rough.
Yeah, stumbling around, not knowing where he's at, and Rollins had to finish that match off so that Sting could get medical attention. So now you're telling me he's coming back not in a regular match where there'll be ropes and guarded a little bit. You can have in-ring physics. You're talking about a street fight here. Aaron, where anything is possible. He's going to take, hits from kendo sticks possibly, or trash cans or trash can lids. Anything could go wrong here. So as a man, and I know this is probably veering into toxic masculinity area, but as a man, I respect the fact that Sting wants to be like, I'm fine. I'm throwing my ass into a match where I can get hit by any number of things, and I'm going to show you that I'm physically fine. But on the other side is he biting off more than he could chew, and will he have permanent damage if something goes wrong? And it's not like AEW doesn't have a track record recently of risking the lives of their older wrestlers, as we saw with Matt Hardy hitting his head on the concrete.
Well, first of all, if Taya Valkyrie is old at 37, then Sting is fucking low pan at 61. For the love of God. Like, I didn't realize it was 2015. 6 years ago was the last time this dude had a match, and he probably shouldn't have been having matches then.
True.
I'm not one to tell Picasso how to paint. I'm not one to tell Michael Jordan how to dunk.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell Sting if he should wrestle or not, because number one, I'm not his doctor. I'm not him. So if you want to go out there and prove to whoever you have to prove to that you still got it, you didn't have to prove shit to any of us, as far as I'm concerned. You didn't have to prove nothing to me.
Right.
You're Sting. You're more popular than the singer, 100%. So There you go. There is one Sting, and it's Sting. So
it's Sting.
He's got nothing to prove to me. I don't know why we're doing this. If we're trying to make Darby Allin bigger, okay, you could put him with Sting. That's fine. But you don't see Taz getting in there. Like, Taz is in on this too. You don't see Taz getting in on this fight. So I don't know, man. Like, part of me is so excited to see Sting in a wrestling match again that, like, I can't stand it. But part of me also is like, dude, like, you're not going up against, like, Ricky Starks is such a good wrestler that I think he can take care of Sting. Mm-hmm. Brian Cage is a massive human being. And it only takes one wrong move or one wrong fall from Brian Cage hitting you to causing you a serious injury. And I'm not saying Brian Cage is dangerous. It's not what I mean. Mm-hmm. I just mean he's a massive mound of human being. It's not he's not Darby Allin. He's about 3 times the size of Darby Allin. So that is a concern. Yeah. Is Sting going to be taking power bombs into tables? Probably not. Right. Is Darby going to do all the damage? Probably so. But I just can't get behind it. Like, as much as I try, I just cannot get behind it, dude.
I agree. And Gramash is asking me, if nothing bad happens and the match is good, will you finally change your mind? Listen, no. Just because you get in the car drunk and you don't get into the accident doesn't mean that you should get in the car again and try it out because you got it right, because you were able to get home safely the first time. No. To me, this has the potential to cause serious physical damage, permanent damage to Sting, to Steve Borden, and it worries me. And that being said, if Darby Allin is going to take all the bumps, why Sting in the ring or why Sting in the match? It doesn't make sense. And how many wrestlers do you know will be like, yeah, I'll be in the match and I won't take any bumps? No, these guys are built on pride. These guys are built on being on manhood, that old school version of manhood. And for them, taking the bumps is a way of, doing an offering to the wrestling gods. They're willing to sacrifice themselves for the entertainment of the fans. And a lot of them love it, love the pain, love the bruises, love the thing while they're in the match. I mean, afterwards, maybe don't love it so much, but the adrenaline while you're doing the match will be there. So do you think Sting is really going to essentially kind of sit on the sideline, get shots in, but not take any shots himself? I don't think that's possible. And I don't think he'd want to do a match like that, to be honest with you, just to say he wrestled. Sting has too much pride, Steve Borden, too much pride in the character of Sting to have him just go in there as like a bystander, and that's that even Flair at his advanced age takes occasional pops when it's called upon and he falls to the mat or whatever. So I just don't see Sting being one of those guys that does that.
I think in the end, we're going to get a cinematic match. I think that's what we're leaning towards. And that's probably the best for everybody involved. Roberto Arsenal said in the chat, Sting in a street fight is smart. It will be punching and kicking, less wrestling moves. Yeah, you're 100% right. It would be just trading forearms with good brothers probably for a little while. But at the same time, do we even need to be putting Sting in that amount of risk?
Yeah.
Like, what happens if he trips and falls and breaks his damn neck?
Yeah.
But then again, they could have probably filmed this match 2 weeks ago, for all we know. It could have been done already. They filmed it like week by week. They film a little bit here, a little bit there to make sure everybody's okay. So I'm going to err on the side of caution. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to sit there and be a fan, a little stinger. I'm going to be there, but I just want Sting to be okay because literally the dude has nothing to prove to anybody. And if you think that Sting has something to prove to you, he fucking doesn't.
No,
he's got nothing.
Really no, I just want him to be okay. That's the number one thing at the end of the day. We have a stream, and we'll see. That should be coming up. When is that match coming up here, Aaron? Next week or in a couple
no? That is a while away. Let me find out the exact. While you're looking up the super or the Streamlab there,
Zach Woolley donated a little bit. Thank you very much, Zach Woolley, on the super chat. Justin Toner says, "Hi, John and Aaron. Did you guys see the top rope move Casey Catanzaro pulled off this week on NXT? Damn, that was impressive." I rewatched Royal Rumble 92 today. So classic. Also, John, are you going to do a watch along of this year's Royal Rumble match? I don't know. Aaron and I have not talked about it, but I might be available to do it. I might be down to do it. It depends on the situation that Aaron Turner is in, if he'd be willing to do it, and timing as well. So
I'm
maybe.
100% in. If you want to do like a live watch along of the Royal Rumble like pay-per-view, yeah, I can do that. I'll get some friends in here to do it with us. It'd be great.
I'm down. All right, let's make it happen. When is that? Next week? Next
Revolution pay-per-view is February 29th.
Okay, so
it's coming up. We got a little bit of time. So the Royal Rumble is next weekend, so 31st.
All right.
So yeah, down with that if we can do that. I think it's going to be an exciting Royal Rumble. Yeah, there's not going to be any fans. Yeah, we're not going to hear the pops every time. We'll get to hear the piped in pops, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to see some really cool moments in this year's Royal Rumble. And yes, I did see Casey Catanzaro do that top rope Flibberty Gibbet move. And I know where she learned it because she learned it from her boyfriend, Trevor Mann, a.k.a. Ricochet. I know he's been showing her. Casey Catanzaro is so talented.
Yeah.
And she's kind of they're actually finally getting to show, she's getting to show what she can do in the Dusty Rhodes Female Classic Tag Tournament.
Right.
But she's an American Ninja Warrior winner. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's got athletic prowess. And we talked about it last week in that Royal Rumble where she climbed up the side of the pole. Like, it was incredible to watch her do that. And all the core strength you have to do that. Incredibly talented. Cannot wait to see more from her. Delightful human being as well. So all the best for Casey Catanzaro.
Looking at it now. Holy Mary, Mother of God. Wow.
She got skills.
That's what is that, a 460? What is that, an 860? I don't know what that is. That was incredible. How many spins was that?
A lot. But put Ricochet to shame. Put Ricochet to shame.
Into a leg drop, man. Essentially.
She did.
Yeah, or a backdrop, I guess. Yeah, it was incredible. And I saw you post about poor Chris Jericho and his attempt at that lion salt. Ooh, that was rough.
Ooh.
That was rough, my man. That was rough.
Yeah, what's funny about that is that Jericho, like somebody said, when you can't do these moves anymore, you should probably stop wrestling. It's like, dude, Jericho is wearing these knee braces. He's wearing pants. Like, there's a million things that could have happened for him not to hit that lion salt. Come on, get off of Jericho's nuts.
Yeah, get off Jericho's nuts. The ropes could have been a little bit, less sturdy than they've been, or looser than they have been.
Loose.
Yeah, all kinds of things could have happened in that situation.
And Jericho's probably sad that Donald Trump didn't win the election. Let's be honest. Okay, he's probably really sad about that. So,
all right, well said. Moving on. No more Streamlabs and Super Chat, so let's move on to the next subject. What do we got?
All right, so now I'm talking about, or we're talking about the Undertaker on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
This was brought up to me a couple times this week in the DMs and a couple times on Twitter. I got to listen to it before we got started here. I don't think Rocha's listened to all of it. He's listened to some of it.
Yeah.
I've got some of the highlights I wanted to go over with you guys here. Just see what you think, see what's going on in your head. So it's one of those times where the Undertaker's like real casual. Like he feels more like he's definitely Mark Calloway. He's not in character during this at all.
Yeah.
But I want to go over a few highlights of things that he said. First thing that he said that really caught my eye was he's gone from an active talent roster contract to a Legends deal, which is the same thing that, Hogan, Flair, and, those other guys that make sporadic appearances have, which allows them to make appearances but not wrestle. They can also use them for merchandise, video games, things like that. So that means to me that he's not going to be wrestling in the future. Like, you're going to, like, I know that they had this 30-year ceremony. It was kind of a little bit lackluster, I thought, for the Undertaker, his going out.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're not going to see him wrestle anymore. We'll probably see him in those, occasional Monday Night Raw Legends nights where he has to go Tombstone Heaths later or something like that. But
right.
It was a great interview. If you haven't caught it, you should definitely catch it. Joe Rogan's one of the best podcasters out there, whether you like him or not. It's the truth. Mm-hmm. And that really shook me because the Undertaker said that he has been wrestling. He started wrestling and training in 1986.
Yeah.
I was born in 1986. So the Undertaker has literally been around my entire life as a wrestler. So when he's finally retired, like, I don't know how to handle it. But to hear him actually say the words, "I'm not an active talent anymore, I'm a legend," like, whoa.
Yeah. Well, until they put him in that Hall of Fame, and even after they put him in that Hall of Fame, Aaron, there's always still the possibility he could have a quote unquote one more match. That's certainly possible here. But I liked a lot of what he had to say here. It does essentially confirm that he is out for now as a wrestler. And why not? I mean, look, he's given so much to the business. Yeah, did the ending go the way they wanted to? Probably not 100%, but he did his thing. He's put in the time, certainly the blood, sweat, and tears given up to the business. And so he deserves a chance to just kind of relax and do all these interviews. It's been amazing. People have been trying for years to get Mark Calloway, aka The Undertaker, to go onto their programs and tell some behind the scenes stuff. And now that he's officially out, officially out as a wrestler, we're getting all these great stories from him and all these great opinions and points of views. And listen, you know what's great about Mark Calloway? This is a guy who did something with Snoop Dogg and then turns around and does something with Joe Rogan. This is the thing that has to come back to our world. It's okay that we don't agree with things politically. It doesn't mean we have to, excommunicate people. So let's open the door. And I want to go further with this, with what he said. I wrestled a time when men were men. I liked it when guys brought in knives and rocks and blah, blah. And you know what? It's okay for him to say that. It doesn't mean that he wants other people to do the things that he enjoyed about the old school wrestling stuff. He's just talking and saying, this is the kind of man I am. This is the kind of shit I enjoyed way back when. And I respect that. He's not saying, I wish these people would stop being, but he's just saying, it's not my jam now what they're all. They're all too pretty. They're playing video games. They care about their branding. Yeah, it's a different time. Social media was not around in the 80s. So it's in the 90s. It's a different time. The wrestlers you get coming in are understanding more and more that they're a brand. So they have to, and look what Paige did. Look what Zelina Vega did. There are more things out there, more options for them to use this as a springboard rather than an end. And I think that's where the conflicting philosophies come in, because Calloway, and in this interview, you guys haven't listened to the interview, just a little bit that I've read, and I can't wait to listen to it, but he talks about how much effort he put in to make it. He pissed away $2,000. He got screwed over by an older wrestler, and he had to take a loan out to pay that $2,000 with his brother. He sat there for 8 months down there at the Von Erich's wrestling promotion, would show up on a Wednesday, world class, yes. For 8 months, he would sit there on Wednesdays all day waiting to get an opportunity to get in the ring. And eventually, finally, he did, because Daddy Von Erich saw that it reminded him of David Von Erich and put him in the ring. So it's the randomness of that, but he was in the right place at the right time because he was willing to sacrifice 8 months of his life to do so. That's not the way things are now. It's a different time. So people come in with a different point of view. And so I appreciate a lot of his honesty in this conversation, his honesty in the conversation with Snoop Dogg as well. I'm falling back in love with The Undertaker, and I already was in love with The Undertaker. I'm falling in love with Mark Calloway as a person because he's so straight up, and there's no airs, there's no arrogance, there's no condescension to him. It's just, this is how it is, and this is how I feel. And I respect that.
Daddy Von Erich, Fritz Von Erich.
You're lucky I didn't say Zaddy Von Erich, but go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Fritz Von Erich. But that was the talking point that I caught too when he said, when I first walked in the locker room back in the day, there were guys with guns and knives in their bags.
Yeah.
And now it's changed to guys playing video games and trying to look pretty. Men were men. And when you needed to handle things in the locker room, exactly. when you needed to handle things in the locker room, it was handled.
It was handled. Yes.
So I get it. It's an old school mentality. I totally get it. Like when I walked in the locker room back in the day when I played, competitive football, competitive sports, it's probably a lot different than walking into the locker room today. I can tell you that. I could probably get away with a lot less.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So I totally get that mentality. I understand it. I've never been in a wrestling locker room. I'm sure it's a lot of people playing video games. I probably agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things he talked about, which was very eye-opening to me, is he talks at length about all of his injuries over the years, and he had a ton.
Yes, he did.
And he was talking about mainly the bullet points I want to hit on is his 2 hip replacements. He was talking about that. He had hip issues since he was been in the WWE, like back in the 90s. He was having hip issues. So what he did was he had this sort of like crazy fusion surgery where they shaved off like all this arthritis and all of this stuff, bone spurs off of his hip, and then put like a metal ball in his hip. And it allowed him, instead of your traditional hip replacement where they cut off part of your leg and then, stitch whatever they do or nail whatever they do, screw whatever they screw, and you go back to wrestling, that's it. Like once they do that, you're done wrestling. And he got this metal ball put into his leg that allowed him to wrestle for another 10 years, he said.
Yeah.
And it was like, he'd been in pain, he'd been limping all this time. And then the second that he woke up from that surgery, the pain was gone.
Yeah.
So he talked about that, and he talked about his orbital bone surgery. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys remember in the mid-90s when the Undertaker wore that phantom mask, that white mask, that was because he had a broken orbital bone. He didn't even know that it was broken. He went to the hospital one day into the ER, and they said, sir, 90% of your orbital floor is gone. So they had to rework his orbital bone. He's got a bunch of wire mesh in his face, and then he ended up breaking his other orbital bone when Rey Mysterio did try to go for Hurricanrana, but rode him all the way down to the mat, broke his nose and broke his face. So it was just an honest mistake, an honest accident. So that was pretty wild to hear. And like all the shoulder injuries, like his shoulders detached in one area, but it like healed in a way that he could still wrestle and it wouldn't bother him. Like it's so crazy to think of like the time and the effort that this guy put in over the years and all the injuries that he had. He said that, for 8 years straight, he was working 280 days a year. And Joe Rogan was like blown away by that. He was like, dude, like how in the world is there anybody on this planet that works harder than a professional wrestler in like entertainment sense? And he's like, I don't know how.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yep. And it's great to hear his point of view on all of that and let people know like that's the kind of guy he is. That's the wrestling background he comes from, and putting that kind of time and putting those days in. That's what it took for those times. But he also said how Jericho is one of those rare guys. We were talking about Jericho a couple of minutes ago, who was escaped injury free because everyone else, and he apparently goes into conversations about Stone Cold, about Kurt Angle's neck. All of that is broken freaking neck. All of that is in the conversation here about how many people have been able to escape serious injury. And he says only Jericho seems to be Jericho's the only one who's been able to do it for whatever reason. So it's mind-blowing the sacrifice these guys make physically to their bodies to be able to stick around. And you wonder what it is that keeps some of them like Mark Calloway and Hogan, kind of doing their thing and getting their surgeries, but still kind of staying on their path. And others who unfortunately succumb to their addiction, succumb to the pain of those injuries, succumb to the issues around those injuries. It's just a shame. You know what I'm saying? Because he came up around that time when so many people who are his contemporaries have passed on. Aaron, it's sad to think about. And that schedule, that brutal schedule Rogan talked about and lauded is a lot of the reasons why, So yes, in the old days there were guns and knives being brought in, but they were also being whipped like donkeys or like beasts of burden in order to be able to keep the money coming in. And now they're a lot more taken care of. I really enjoyed what he talked about, giving us behind the scenes about the drug testing that goes on there. There's doctors and physicians and everything. People are more, it's like the NFL, man. The NFL in the 80s, same thing. Guys eating burgers and smoking during halftime. And now these guys are at the top peak physical condition. Everything is available to them to be able to extend their careers overall. It's ironic, Aaron, because nowadays, you can extend your career as a wrestler for 20 to 30 years if you eat right, if you train well, if you listen to nutritionists, if you take time to rest. You've got all these different tapes, body tapes, all these ways to recover, hyperbaric chambers, cryotherapy, all that helps you recover. Yet more and more wrestlers are retiring early to find lives outside of the business. So it's fascinating. Now when you could probably be in here longer, more wrestlers are trying to look out past the business and use it as a stepping stone rather than an endpoint.
Well, another thing I want to touch on real quick about an injury is they were talking about WrestleMania 30 in the match that he had with Brock Lesnar, because he left and went to the hospital after that, and they were scanning him and they found out that he may have a broken neck. Yeah. And then when they scanned it, like they thought that happened in the match with Brock. No, his neck had been broken like previously. Like he's just been walking around with a broken neck, had no friggin' idea that he had a broken neck. Yeah. Like what in the world? Like, and he's just like, yeah, I've got a high tolerance for pain. It's like, dude, like, you have a freaking broken neck. Yeah, your neck's creaking around. Like, what in the world? It's so crazy, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, just listening to him talk about all those injuries is insane, man. You guys definitely have to check out that interview. And excuse me, I want to touch on probably the most headline grabbing thing that he said. He said that the WWE product these days is kind of soft. SAWFT soft. Soft. And what do we think of him saying that? He went on to say that, I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm not saying this is a bitter old man. I'm saying this to maybe motivate some people. Like it's all talk. It's all pretty. And there's not enough substance to the product these days. And when you're the Undertaker and you're saying that, it's got to give you a kick in the ass, right?
It can if you're a person who needs a kick in the ass. But the people, and they talk about CM Punk a little bit too, Aaron, as a what he did with going to UFC and trying to do what he did. But once again, it's a different mentality. So he can call these guys soft all he wants, but it's a different time. And he's trying to see it. He's seeing what's happening now through his own prism. But these people are pulling off moves the Undertaker wouldn't even dream of pulling off. Like what Katie did, Catanara, whatever to say her name is, like what she pulled off. You see these people more and more. There's more of that in their arsenal. There's more of them doing those kinds of things. Plus, these are people in better shape than the people the Undertaker had to fight way back in the day. Overall, they're in way better shape. So they come in with a different mentality. To me, I'm like, I get that he thinks it's soft. I'm sure, the old school 70s and 80s NFL players would look at the NFL now and say it's soft, right? I can't clothesline somebody. I can't even hit the quarterback below the knees. I can't smack him in the head. There's all kinds of stuff that you can get away with in the 70s and 80s that you can't get away with now. And it's because we want to take care of our athletes more. So yeah, he has every right to his opinion. Doesn't mean we have to listen to it. Doesn't mean it has to mean anything, but he has every right to his opinion. I'm happy to see these wrestlers being taken care of more. Now, are there wrestlers who are taking advantage of this and whining and crying and being 100? Right, exactly. Being like, what do you call it? Self-promoting, being like, like divas. Yes, there's way more of that going on. And you wonder why the WWE has patience for that when they didn't used to have patience for it in times past.
I'm always reminded of my dad when we talk about this old school kind of mentality, because that's the kind of mentality that my dad had. And I remember him. I'll talk about my playing days in football again, because when I was an offensive lineman, I was an all-state offensive lineman. I was so awesome in high school. So hell yeah. But anyway, he would get so mad at my coaches because on Monday we would have film day, and then on Tuesday would be our offensive day. So that's when I would practice, and then Wednesday was defensive day, and I wouldn't be on the field. Like I wouldn't practice at all. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I would just help people and do weight training. My dad would get so mad. He's like, why aren't you out there with the defense and stuff? I was like, Dad, they don't want me to get hurt. Like that's the offense plays when the offense practices and blah, blah, blah. He's like, you guys are so soft. You're going to get he would say that. He's like, you guys are doing a bunch of pussy shit out there. Like, that's just the mentality, man. That's how my dad was. That's just that old school mentality. And was he right? Probably. He probably was right. Did I take advantage of it? You bet your ass I took advantage of it because it's hot.
Maybe or maybe not, too, because, these guys are the ones hobbling around at 60 while people who are going to be 60 who will come around this time are not going to be hobbling around. Yeah. And so there's a difference. Yeah, cool. You're such a badass. You can barely pick up your kids. You know, I mean, those are, or you can barely walk around the house. And so those are the exchanges, you know? And so, yeah, soft if you want, but they get to live longer. And that's really the most important thing.
Yeah. I mean, there was one time where I fell asleep on the football field and then woke up and then went to the sideline and then went back in the game. So I know about it. I know about it. So I would never do that today. Never do that.
Yeah. Well, all right. We're running out of time, Aaron, because I got to jump off for that free agency special. We got about 9 minutes left. Let's hit these 2 quick super chats and get our last thing. But yeah, if you want to listen to that or watch it, I think Aaron said the first hour's on Spotify.
Or the whole thing's on Spotify. You can watch it. You definitely should
go.
watch the video version if you can on Spotify, because they go over a lot of like the surgery stuff is very interesting, and then the different parts of his career that he talks about with visual aids is always interesting to me.
That's good. Chris Taylor says, Sting the Stinger will be watching you every single day. Watch out, Aaron Turner. LOL.
Every single day, every time I pray, I'll be watching you. And I'll be watching the Royal Rumble.
Hell yeah. Gramash says, are we going to talk Matt Hardy at Impact again?
No. We're not going to talk about big money Matt and Impact because it's going to end up being nothing.
Yeah.
It's cool to see Matt Hardy back in Impact, but without fans, it really doesn't work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's true. Oh, yeah. He talked about the steroid stuff. One last thing. He does talk about steroids in this conversation. Undertaker does with Joe Rogan, and talks about how essentially admitting that he did use it, not fully admitting it, but kind of admitting that he did use it back then, because he said guys were just caught up with trying to look big. And he says he looks at the guys now, and he didn't imply that they're using steroids, but he's saying, I don't know how you can get this big and this cut. And he said, I couldn't even do that when I was doing steroids. And it's true, because back then they didn't have the nutritional information that they do now. These guys do now. That's why they're able to get cut without using that stuff. Although I don't know if they are or they aren't. So
they got really stuck on Braun Strowman during that whole topic, because Joe Rogan had never seen Braun Strowman before. He's like, dude, oh my God, like this guy. Like, yeah, I mean, he said Joe Rogan kept saying, like, it's possible. But if he was like to be that big and that cut and everything, but I don't know. They were very stuck on Braun Strowman. Undertaker was like, listen, I don't know what he does. I can just tell you there's a strenuous policy, and if I have to, he basically said, if I can't get away with not doing the test, nobody gets away with not doing the test. So he kind of took Braun Strowman's back after kind of burying him. So
exactly. All right, let's do the next 5 minutes here, talking about our last topic, and it's Dark Side of the Ring, I think, right, Aaron?
Yep, we're talking about Dark Side of the Ring. A new topic was added this week. I love to bring up Dark Side of the Ring because it's one of our favorite things to talk about. They added the Chris Kanyon story, the life and career of the late Chris Kanyon, who was a great wrestler in WCW. If you remember Mortis, that character, and then Positively Kanyon before he transitioned over to the WWE in that invasion angle. There's not a whole lot you can't say about Kanyon's ability. One of the best in-ring performers that really never got a chance to break out. That Mortis character was over there for a little bit, but then that kind of went away. And the Positively Kanyon stuff didn't really get over the way they wanted to. And him and Diamond Dallas Page as a tag team wasn't really that great, but Chris Kanyon himself, from all accounts, great guy, struggled a lot with his own identity, as he was a gay man in a very macho man sport. Yeah. And it ultimately led to his suicide, which is, of course, very sad. Yeah. But that'll be one of the topics they cover on Vice's Dark Side of the Ring this coming season. So any thoughts on Kanyon?
Yeah, I mean, knowing his story after he left was, sad to hear and heartbreaking. And once again, it's the product of that time, right? Like now, I think an openly gay wrestler, as we see in the WWE occasionally, like, why can't I think of her name? Sonya Deville put her hair up and square up. Like that now is celebrated, but it took time to get there. And Kanyon, unfortunately, like in multiple other areas of life, multiple other businesses or companies or whatever, sadly paid the price for that because he was heartbroken about it. He's broken about it inside and may have led or contributed to his suicide possibly. But I think it's a damn good episode to explore. I did enjoy Mortis whenever he would show up. Kanyon was great. I think, Did he try to be part of the NWO? I don't remember if he tried to be part of the NWO.
Can't remember.
Yeah, I think so, maybe. But either way, some version of it. But either way, these are good stories to tell because they can show like how far we've come from what the Undertaker calls that time when men were men. Not implying that he's homophobic in a way, but this idea of radiating manhood all the time versus what's happening now, which is more of an accepting society, more of an aware society, not woke, because I hate that fucking term, more about accepting people as equals and accepting people as they are. So that is a good thing to explore here in Dark Side of the Ring, because Dark Side of the Ring is about exploring the shady underbelly of wrestling's past. So why not explore this too? There's certainly been a lot of rampant homophobia in professional wrestling,
in professional sports.
In professional sports, right? In professional sports, but certainly because this focuses on pro wrestling, I center it on pro wrestling. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to give a quick episode update with episodes that we know that are happening so far. Yeah. Brian Pillman will be the season premiere with Steve Austin. FNW will be an episode. XPW, another one. Nick Gage, The Life and Times of Nick Gage. The WCW New Japan Collision in Korea event from 95. The Smith family, which includes Sam Houston, Rockin' Robin, and Jake the Snake Roberts. Ion Croitoro, I don't know anything about that at all. Okay. And finally, Chris Canyon that we just talked about. Still no word on when it's going to premiere, but as that happens, we are definitely going to be all over it doing our probably side reviews on every episode of Dark Side of the Ring because we're such big fans of it. So hell yeah. I like to throw that in there. Anything I can learn about Dark Side of the Ring, anything tidbit I could throw in there to you guys, I like to throw it in there.
Definitely. All right, well, let's wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for joining us here on this live episode of Strong Style. Please remember to like and share this episode on your social media. Get your other professional wrestling fans to join and take a chance on our show and come aboard and schedule time to watch it, or just watch it themselves. If they don't want to watch it live with us, just watch it later on. Remember to leave a comment down below as well. Comments elevate the visibility of the show for anybody who's watching pro wrestling or enjoying pro wrestling content here on YouTube. Aaron, where can people find you and everything that's going on, my man?
On Twitter at only Aaron Turner. And thank you guys once again for the great gifts. I really appreciate it. Had a great birthday. It was awesome. Thank you.
I got him something too, but he doesn't want to show it on camera.
It's in the other room, but he got me Big Trouble in Little China, the collector's edition, the Scream Factory version. It ain't no regular version; it's the good version. It's like my favorite movie ever. So, Chef's
absolutely. There you go. You can follow me at the Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. Subscribe to the channel down below as well. We crossed 15,000 subscribers this week during the Outlaw Nation show. So thank you all so much for doing that. Let's keep marching forward as we build this outlet out, build what we're doing here more and more. And don't forget to follow me over to the SCN network in about a couple of minutes. We've got the live free agency special for the Schmodown. Who is going where? Who is going to join the Finstock Exchange? Who is going to get signed on all these number of – they're all going to be announced going down the road. They're all going to appear and announce. I will be on within the first hour, right around the 40-minute mark. I'll be able to tell you what's happening with me. So come and get involved with that. You know the Outlaw is the Outlaw again, so you don't want to miss that. So come over to Schmodown Entertainment Network for that free agency special. All right, we're out of here. Aaron, much love to you. We'll talk to you next time. And, of course, as we say, practice your social distancing, wear your mask, and you too can join us back next week for another live episode of Strong Style.